Okay, so when you're working with the FRS and your QuickBooks, you're going to have to make sure, A, your chart of accounts are absolutely correct within your QuickBooks. It's the first process of any of it. Some people are still using old chart of accounts, or they're making improper sub-accounts from the chart of accounts. You can have as many sub-accounts as you want, but you have to follow the pattern that has been established by Grand Lodge to establish the sub-account. So it's very important that you pay attention to that. One of the biggest problems we're having is lodges liking to use a dash or parenthesize their numbers when they're doing their CVS file to upload to the FRS. That makes negative numbers for us. When we pull them up, everything will be negative. And we know that can't be correct, because if it was all negative, you'd be out of business. 90% of the lodge's problems are coming with the balance sheets. When we log in to start looking, this is what I see. These are all the lodges that have uploaded a 990 to the Grand Lodge system. So that's the first thing I am going to go look at. I'm going to go look at your 990. I've developed my own form that I use for myself to show what the numbers on the 990 are that I'm going to be comparing to the FRS. So I'll just pick a lodge here. We'll stick in Florida. This is a financial form that they sent along with their 990. This is not required no more. So least information you give me, the better. We're only asking for your 990, so please, just give us your 990. It'll make it a lot easier for us to help you. This is the 990 for the Ocala Lodge. Now, somebody's going to say, why'd you show this? You shouldn't show it. I can take you to a website by the IRS where every lodge's 990 is out there for public view. There's no reason on God's little green earth to password protect your 990. It's out there. You're a public corporation. So everybody's allowed to go out there and view it. So don't password protect it. It's not that top secret. I'm going to go straight to page 11, 9 out of 10 times. Page 11 is the balance sheet that your accountant has created for you. These are the numbers that should be in your QuickBooks. These are the numbers that should be uploaded to the FRS. If you're getting an email from me, or you're getting something saying that you're not correct or you're out of compliance, this is where I would start. I would pull up the 990, I would go and look at what's on my QuickBooks to make sure that's correct. Your DD and your district sponsor has the ability to view this. How many auditors do I have in here? Hi guys. As of the workshop at August for the past state presidents, you guys no longer work for the DDs. You work for me. If you have a problem, contact me. I will walk you through it. I will help you any way I can to get it corrected. Also, we've asked the DDs to share their login information for the FRS for you, so that you can see what's going on when you're in the lodges by helping me. I want to have a relationship with you, like Tony, stand up. This is Tony Dodge, he's from my district. Me and Tony work hand in hand on all the lodges in our district, and we have cleaned up 90% of the problems. Tony's very good with QuickBooks. I rely on him quite a bit. So that's the kind of relationship I want to develop with the auditors, because guys, heavier fines are on their way. Heavier fines and being forced to do a full-blown audit on the lodges are on their way. Grand Lodge is fed up. It's been 2 years, they want the system up and running. It's not going away, it's here to stay. So that's where we're at with that. This is going to be your meeting. After I show you a few things, I want to answer the questions that you guys have, because it's more important for me to find out what you guys want to know, because it will just be boring if I continue to just talk. But this is what you should be looking at when you're on the website. You should be taking this when you get it from your accountant every year and comparing it to your balance sheet on your QuickBooks to make sure it's correct. You should also, when you get your tax return, you should get a little envelope with it or a sheet of paper with it with what's called journal entries. You have to make these journal entries into your QuickBooks. If you do not make the journal entries into your QuickBooks, your next balance sheet is going to be off, and you're going to get emails from me, and we're going to be trying to correct the situation. Right now, if you're way off on your balance sheet and you haven't had your 2019-2020 audit review done by me, what I'm going to tell you, the easiest way to fix this is get a hold of me, get a hold of Patrick Weber at Grand Lodge, and just take down the old balance sheet and reload a fresh corrected balance sheet. Because trying to correct it up here online is very, very difficult. Because if you just keep sending balance sheets, what happens with the FRS, it keeps adding them together. So maybe you had a $100,000 balance sheet, next time you upload it, you have a $200,000 balance sheet. Then you have a $300,000 balance sheet. It will just keep adding it together over and over again. Yes?
When you say review this with your balance sheet, are you talking before the return is sent in?
No, this is correct. My natural assumption is that you use a professional accountant and they had enough brains and enough skill to do this correct. So I get that a lot. A lot of times Lodge will call up the accountant and say, he told me that my balance sheet's wrong on a tax return. I don't say that. I usually say the balance sheet is incorrect on the FRS and doesn't match the balance sheet on a tax return. I'm always going to assume that this balance sheet's correct. Paul?
Yeah, the question that I have is, explain take down the balance sheet.
All right. Taking down the balance sheet is basically, we contact Patrick Weber, and that's patrickweber@elks.org. That's his email. We contact Patrick, we tell Patrick, remove the balance sheet from the FRS. That's what I mean by take it down. He will just remove it from the FRS, it'll be blank, and then he'll send me an email asking me permission to allow you to upload a new one, which I will automatically say yes. And then you upload a corrected balance sheet, and he will put it back where the old one was, and you will have a corrected balance sheet online. Yes, Paul?
Just one more question about the balance sheet. Let's say that I uploaded a balance sheet 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and maybe it doesn't work right now because of journal entries or whatever. And then I say take down the balance sheet. If I put the new balance sheet up, then what do I do with all these? Is that it?
If your corrected balance sheet's correct and it's the way you want it to be, then yeah, that's it. You're done. You don't have to do all these other entries to get it back up to speed. It should be there.
Don't have to reload any of the months prior?
No, that's separate. Your monthly uploads are separate from your balance sheet. I'm concentrating on the balance sheet right now because that's where we're finding 99% of the problem. You guys are doing a fantastic job on your monthly uploads. You really are. So. Now I'm going to show you what we see for the balance sheet online. When I go in, I have to pull this page up, I have to tell it which lodge I'm trying to do. And then I have to tell it the year we're doing. It is not a friendly system, I'll tell you that right now.
Carl, if they're going back to the March 31st balance sheet, which is gonna affect the 990, they're taking that balance sheet away, and then they take the 990 and they make sure that what's on the 990 goes on the new one.
Correct.
So it's the March 31st balance sheet that's gonna go away
Correct.
of 2020.
Correct. Or 2019 or 2020, whatever year you're picking to correct, that's the one that's gonna disappear and come back with the fresh corrected balance sheet. This is what we see when I pull up the FRS. This is the balance sheet for this lodge. I will compare that right away with what's on the 990. If they match, I will start to proceed to finish your financial audit report. So that's where the matches have to be. We have to get those two to match for me to proceed any further to getting your financial report done. Once those two match, then I will move on to your monthly uploads, which we have to go back and reload. And again, we have to tell it the year and the time frame that we're looking at. And then this is your monthly uploads. This is what your monthly uploads look like on the FRS. The black side are your actuals, the red side is your budget. And I will scroll through these numbers, comparing it to your tax return, comparing it to all the other information that we have accumulated on the lodge, looking at your last year's financial audit report to make sure it's not way out of whack. And then we'll go ahead and start doing our calculations to figure out your cost of goods, if your lodge is showing a profit, losing money. This is where all the information comes. This is what you guys are uploading every month. When you do your uploads, what we're going to ask you to do, I don't know if anybody's told you this yet, but we want you to do them for the year period. In short, April to July, April to August. Always do the entire month spans. This way, if you made a journal correction someplace in there, you're going to catch it, and it's going to keep these numbers accurate.
It's different than the way we're doing it now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, most people are doing 1 month. We want you to do it for the whole time period. That way, let's say you were working in July, and the accountant called you and say, hey, you need to make a journal entry back in April. So you go back and you make that journal entry, and you just send July, we don't pick it up. It won't show up. So we really need you to do the whole span each and every time. If you do it that way, everything's picked up, you'll keep the numbers clean, fresh, and correct. Yes, Charlotte?
Have they given any consideration to a 13th month? Because that way we could put in the journal entries that are made after you have the input. You have input your third week in April. Well, the captain gives us journal entries in May.
Yeah.
Where do we get them in?
You put them in, and when we get the system working correctly, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to go back and correct your annual financial report. That's the goal. The goal is to get this so simple, working so well, that we just can go back and rapidly reproduce everything. We're actually going to change the That beautiful little form that you get emailed about the lodge, that's going away this year. We're gonna revamp it. We're actually gonna give you something that's vitally important for the lodge, and we're gonna give you more information. Starting this coming year, you don't see it too much, but we're gonna start tracking your charitable money. We're gonna start putting that on the reports for you. We also are adding more accounts for the lodges. We're getting requests for more chartered accounts. We're not changing them, we're adding some by lodges. We're gonna be adding for credit card machines. We're gonna be adding for gambling. We're gonna be adding, what was the other one? There was a third one, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But we are adding more chartered accounts. We're also gonna start tracking all your corporations throughout everything. That's fairly important. How many lodges have like a 501c3 or a commercial property separated from the lodge? Cemetery will work. What we're going to ask you to do going down the road is don't have two corporations open up, just have one. I have a problem right now with a lodge in Georgia. They have 3 corporations, so they have 3 990s, and I got to compare those 3 990s, and then I got to add up 3 FRSs to see if we're even close, and we never balance. They never balance. Your 501c8 is a lodge. That's a not-for-profit, but you're allowed to make a profit. Yeah. C8. This is your guys' meeting, so ask me questions. I'm here to answer what's important to you.
If the March 31st balance sheet and the 990 balance sheet, page 11 match, but FRS doesn't, what's happening now? How do we fix it?
What's happening there is either somebody uploaded a bad balance sheet to begin with on the FRS, and what we have to do is we have to scrub it. We have to take the old one down and just reload the new one. That's going to be the easiest way. You could fix it online. I could go through it and give you all these adjustments to make, but 9 out of 10 times, that just makes it worse.
So they don't need to go back and re-enter
No.
any entries they make?
No, the monthly has nothing to do with the balance sheet. It's totally separate.
Something they have to go back and make adjustments on the entries.
No, and that's a disconnect. George?
Yeah, Carl, during the audit of some of the lodges, one lodge in particular, I go over the finances with the chairman before we look at their numbers. And in one lodge, I saw that they're making one deposit for the entire lodge, meaning they have their charity in the general fund. Obviously, they're supposed to have a restricted fund where it belongs. I was asked, I got in touch with the chairman of the board, and he felt the board very welcome to get it changed. But the question came to me is this: where in the Grand Lodge statutes does it say you must have a restricted account? Now, for the last 3 weeks, that's what I've been doing, is looking over the Grand Lodge statutes. There are opinions about it. Let me give you what Google says. A Google restricted account. It's a separate account to keep charity in. And this is my opinion. Tell me if I've done it right, Carl, please. I've looked at that and I said to them, you've got that money from charity. Anybody looking at your books is going to say, that's in your general fund, we're not going to use it any time. That's what the eyes tell me. And that's what I said to the lodge. So I'm stating, I also asked someone else, they say it's in the Auditor accounting now.
Yeah, it is.
Which it is, looked at that too. But I'm trying to get them to change it, but they're making them.
Yeah, it's a Grand Lodge statute that you're supposed to keep the charity money separated, and you're not allowed to use it for paying bills unless you bring it to the floor, have a vote, and then you even have to assign an interest rate to it to pay it back. That's the proper way to do it. But yeah, they should not be commingling their money. Yes, sir.
So, when you say
movement.
And then, once I get it in my checking account, then I'll transfer it over to my reserve account and my.
That's acceptable.
Yeah, that is. So, as long as I keep track of it that way, it's easy.
That's acceptable, but he's saying, no, they just have one bank account, and they're just dropping all the money in there.
But if you, I mean, I guess you can still have one, the name account is, I think, what is confusing, because the chart accounts, I have many accounts in my chart accounts. And I have a lot of shares accounts in my chart accounts.
Yeah.
And if I transfer it within QuickBooks into that account number, then it's kind of locked in there, but it is still a part of my checking account, so it's on that balance.
That would be acceptable as long as you have some way of tracking it, but it sounds like they're not even tracking it. They're just dropping it into one general fund and saying this week, I got $10,000. Now, they're not saying I have $5,000 general fund and $5,000 charity.
Cover money
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, they're commingling everything. You're separating everything, even though you're just using basically one account, so that's fine.
Carl, the answer to that is also, when you're doing that and moving that money, you make sure that's in a restricted account that has to be voted on. That is key.
So,
This is going away, thank God. Yeah,
and you can sell it much of this, I don't care, I just want to fix.
to your cash and your liabilities. So when I was going through your 990, okay, and then I went up on the FRS with this, what it was your cash didn't match the cash on the 990. Okay, let me go back to it. Well, maybe. Oh, there you go. See?
It's not your computer, it's that.
Well, as you can see on the blank screen,
And I have a number of entries that prior to practically clean things up and match the 990. But I'm still not there right now.
and
Can we get a question before the
It-
answer?
what she's asking is, she brought her audit committee report with her, and I put a note at the bottom, like I do on most of them, that states that the balance sheet on the FRS needs some adjusting. The cash and the liabilities, the current liabilities are off. Your current liabilities are, all the stuff that is short-term liabilities. It's not your mortgage, so that's not in there. It's just your short-term liabilities. And that means that what he had on tax return may have been, you got it working. Don't breathe on it. See, what's happening here is that top number there, your 20,597, and then the other checking account. And by the way, you can't have a negative inventory. If you wanna hear me moan in my office, when I see negative numbers on a balance sheet, that's like a pet peeve. You can't have negative liabilities, guys. I'm sorry. As much as you want to, we can't have negative liabilities. Think about it. You got a negative liability, what do you got? Positive. Yeah, you know, it's impossible, so please, don't put minus signs. You don't need to use minus signs at all. The purpose of a balance sheet is the top part you add, the bottom part you subtract, and it balances. I mean, that's a balance sheet. That's what it's all about. Top's the good part, bottom's the part you take out, and here what we got left over. And it should balance. If it's done right. Yeah, and then you can't have this, and you can't have a $10,774 negative checking restricted fund, impossible. $2,000 lodge general or savings restricted fund, negative, can't have it. Well, what? Okay. Like I said, someone along the line, might not have been you, could have been somebody else in the lodge, could have been somebody sent up more than one balance sheet, or they uploaded something totally incorrect. And what's happened is your numbers gotten screwed up. That's happening a lot. We're seeing a lot of this. Tony will back me up on that.
Best thing is delete and start again.
Yes, delete and start again. You'll never get this corrected.
One of the things that I've really seen is people try and pick and choose how to do a correction. As Carla said earlier, take your 990 and balance that to your QuickBooks balance sheet. Once you have your QuickBooks balance sheet equaling your 990, that's the time you call Patrick and tell him to clear the balance sheet on FRS. Then upload your new transaction or your new balance sheet from QuickBooks to FRS. Don't try and pick and choose and make individual account corrections and keep uploading individually. Clear everything from FRS, upload everything new.
Thank you, Tony. That is going to be the quickest, easiest way to fix it.
Question?
Yes.
Did I misunderstand? You want us to take the 990 and make our QuickBooks equal that?
That's what should be going on, yes.
So in other words, we tell the IRS whatever the 990 says, and it doesn't matter if our QuickBooks are correct.
If your account was done 990 for you, the 990 should be correct. And that's what was reported to the IRS. So basically, you're telling the IRS on your QuickBooks that, yes, the tax return is correct. I know it's a little bit different than what you've been normally taught, but it's going to be the easiest way for us to get the lodges correct. And once we get you correct, going forward gets really, really easy. This system is really made for people like me that don't like accounting. I mean, it's made just to upload and take care of it month after month for you once we get it correct at the beginning. If we never get it correct at the beginning, the end will never be correct. And we're always going to be off. And you're always going to get these nice little notes, you know, that this is not working.
I look at the 2019 March 31st balance sheet, which was supposed to be used to do my 990.
Correct.
And I balance to that. What happens when I balance to that and we get to the 2020 990 and my numbers are off?
They shouldn't be. Well, once we get 2019 correct, all right? When we go to 2020, it should pick up everything and should be correct. That's why when we started this system, we didn't need 2019 to do anything because we already done your financial report for 2019. but we need the data from 2019 so that 2020 would be correct. And once we get to 2020 and it's correct, we know that 2021 is going to automatically be correct because it's picking up. Once we get it right, it picks up the data and just keeps moving forward as you upload it. So, and it'll put it all together for you. Now, don't get too upset when you're looking at the FRS if one of your chart of accounts aren't there. Because what the system will do is it will compress. It'll take groupings and move them all together. Move all the sub-accounts into one because we really don't care how many sub-accounts you got. I don't need to know that you're got a dance that raises $5,000. I don't need to know that. I just need to know that $5,000 came in. Okay? One second. Yeah, Stu, my buddy.
My question is this, the 19 is, you make a match to the 990, everything's correct, that's great. Come 20, 21, 22, it's not automatically correct because, again, you have to have match to the 990. So there's gonna be an adjustment made for 20 to the balance sheet ending March 31st after the 990 is done. Do you again have to take down the balance sheet and bring it back? Because there's an adjustment being made.
Great question. What you need to do is do, like you know, you need to do your journal adjustments to the next balance sheet, which would be 2020, and that will automatically make that match up to your, should automatically match up to your 990, and then you move forward.
But you've already sent it in prior to the adjustment.
Even though you've done that, if you upload the adjustments to the website, there's a period of time where we'll allow you to fudge a little bit with the numbers. If you upload the new balance sheet, the new adjustments, the system will pick it up. And we do not start doing the audit reviews until after August anyhow. So you got a period of time where you guys got time to get the adjustments in. And we're actually trying to get all the tax returns done by August 15th next year, so that when you guys do your next upload, everything will be caught and we can move forward correctly without sending out 6,000 emails.
So Carl, I got a quick question for you.
So the adjustments generally are gonna happen, for the prior year, they're gonna happen, you're going to make adjustments in March, right? And so I'm gonna have to re-upload the March, from March, April, May, June, whatever, right? Okay. All right, that makes sense, thanks.
Yes.
First of all, my kudos to Patrick, he's a joy to work with.
Genius.
And second of all, when do we start this cumulative loading of the months?
Whenever you want.
So that I can start with, for instance, the end of November is coming up, so when I put my things up to go up for December 1st, which is the end of November, I can do the cumulative ones and then start working from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there will be no need to go back and change any prior months once you start doing the cumulative. Once you do the cumulative and you start doing it for the year span, the system will pick up all the adjustments that you've made. So you can start at any time. Sooner the better, so we can see more accurate numbers, but whenever you start, it's fine. And you have a question.
I don't want to beat this to death, but as an EA that I am, and I'm the treasurer, and I take the numbers in the QuickBooks and match it to the 990, and then the IRS comes in and wants to do an audit, my neck is on the line. Tell me how I handle that.
But again, the 990 is what the IRS was filed with them, and you're doing it for that period. So it should have matched before your tax return was even done.
Correct, but I came in April 1.
Okay.
The last 19, 20, 21, I've spent 20 hours a week for the last month trying to get things organized. And I'm still not comfortable because I'm still learning the system. And I have a concern because I work pretty hard for my PA and I don't want to lose.
I understand, my wife's an EA. Okay. and she does like 10 lodges, so. What I'd recommend at that point is, let's not go back to 19. Have your audit report been done, your year-end financial audit report. Okay. Let me take a look at it. Yes, fine.
If on your Area 3 report, the cost of goods sold in the kitchen is showing over 100% and you're contracting, what happened?
Great question. What's happening is, under your expenses and under your income, Sony has logged all your rent, which would be your income, as an expense too. So that's where the 100% is coming in. So, because what we're doing when we do that, well, it's down now, is I'm taking your cost of food and I'm dividing it by your income, which gives me my percentage for cost of goods. So to be 100%, both numbers have to be the same. Yeah. But that's the problem. And for you guys that don't do this on a regular basis, that's how you get all your costs. You take your cost and divide it by your income. The labor, you add up your labor insurance, you put those two together, and then you divide it by your income, and voila, there's your number. Yeah, it includes the employer, it includes all the taxes, it includes everything. You gotta put it all in there. If you wanna know what your entertainment is, add up your entertainment and divide it by your income. I mean, it's a very simple process. This ain't rocket science, I can do it. I mean, so. Like I said, we're gonna start tracking all your corporations. If you have more than one corporation, we're gonna start tracking it next year. We've already started a little bit this year. We're gonna be tracking your charity accounts, because we know lodges are dipping into the charity accounts to pay bills, and we need to get a handle on that before we have an IRS problem. We're easy, guys. We're low-hanging fruit. Most of us aren't accountants. Most of us aren't really business people. So all these agencies look at us, and we're easy. They walk in, they can find something in a matter of minutes.
We just finished working on the IRS audit, or I was helping a lot, and they messed with them. I just finished working with one of the lodges on an IRS audit. It came out clean, finally, but the IRS caused them grief for many, many, many months, over a year. But it did come out clean, and don't ever try to do one on your own.
Business practices and auditing and accounting recommend A, you don't do the audit at your office, you do it at your accountant's office. B, you don't have any of your officers there, let the accountant handle it. Your officers are gonna sink you.
I don't need that, I can talk real loud.
Thank you.
From a year-over-year, month-over-month perspective, how often is the IRS auditing our lodges? And what are they finding? What's our top 3 things that we're starting to, get busted, we'll call it busted, for coming up through the...
Generally, the IRS will only show up if someone's complaint has started the ball rolling. And generally, it'll be one of your own members, 9 out of 10 times. And generally what they're finding 9 out of 10 times, the first thing they're hitting you with is payroll and payroll taxes. Most people don't realize that when you have payroll and payroll taxes, if I gave you a drink after volunteering for an hour, guess what? You're now an employee. Yeah, so that's why we always recommend that you don't give away free drinks, you give low-cost drinks to your volunteers. Make them pay something. If they pay a little bit, you're safe. I mean, but if you give it to them, you've got to start tracking it, what you're supposed to. I'm not going to tell you you have to, I'm going to tell you you're supposed to track it. Then you're supposed to bring them up to minimum wage. And then you got to pay all the employment taxes, the whole 9 yards. And at the end of the year, you gotta give them a 1099 or a W-2.
Carl, just to follow up on that, we have like an Exalted Rulers hospitality account.
So can the ER's hospitality account be used to pay for drinks for like the officer of the day, and stuff like that?
Yes.
Thank you. And that would relieve us of that employee thing, thanks.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they give an ER account, and the ER has X amount of dollars he can spend at the lodge, so he can go in and buy all the volunteers drinks, which is perfectly acceptable. Yeah, that, what he said, put it in your budget.
Yeah, we do.
Make sure everybody can see it, so.
There actually is a 30,000 account for ER Goodwill.
Yes. 30,000, it's a 30,000 account number for ER Goodwill.
On that note, I am not only the treasurer and everything else there, but I also call bingo at our lodge. And every once in a while I make an announcement on our Wednesday hamburgers. And one of the announcements that I make is that we do things with volunteers. Volunteers cannot accept tips.
No.
And they pay for everything. So that, and I made that big announcement on Tuesday that they can't accept tips. So everybody there at Bingo knows that you can't tip the person that's selling you the food. Or if you tip the person that's selling you food, that tip jar is going in as a donation.
Yeah, once you start tipping somebody, you have just made that person an employee again.
Let me elaborate on that. I came up yesterday, just exactly what you talked about, the business practices. If you have a volunteer who gets tips, they can be donated back to the lodge. If they're a volunteer, you must fill out the paperwork where they agree to that prior to getting behind that bar. So they sign it, they state they're giving it to whatever charity within the lodge. If you tip it, that's the only way a volunteer can accept tips.
Are we having fun yet? Go ahead, Tony. Tony's got something to say. This is why we get along so well.
When I go out and do audits and I encounter a lodge that has volunteer servers or volunteer bartenders, yes, the number one rule is if they get tips, they have to donate it back to the lodge. In my lodge, our one bartender who's a volunteer, puts his tips in a plastic envelope and a little piece of paper saying, donate to children's therapy, donate to the NFL Sunday ticket, whatever. It's getting donated back. The biggest issue I see is the lodges that don't require those tips to be donated. And they kind of bury their head in the sand saying, well, the volunteers don't tell me what they get for tips, so it doesn't make any difference. That's wrong. If the IRS were to come in and you have servers, they are going to automatically assume that 8% of your gross sales in food or in beverage were tipped. And now they're going to turn around and look at the people who volunteer, and they're going to want to see tip donation records equaling that 8%. And if they don't see it, now they're going to turn around and say, your volunteers are employees. As Carl elaborated earlier, if they determine they're employees, the problem then becomes they're subject to minimum wage. Now, if you've got a volunteer that worked for 8 hours, they're supposed to be paid $80 if they accepted tips. So now you want to run into minimum wage issues, the taxes on everything else, all the employment taxes. And by the way, have you guys heard of a little term called the trust fund penalty? The trust fund penalty is this: if the IRS comes in and says, you owe payroll taxes, and you can't afford it because it's such a huge thing, They will now pierce the corporate veil, and they will make the officers who were responsible for collecting those taxes personally liable. I can't stress enough, get rid of volunteer tips. Even if it's gonna cost you payroll, it's gonna save you down the road, it's gonna protect you personally. Thanks.
Like I said, we're low hanging fruit. We're easy. Yes.
Well, I have one more. I ran into something that's very unique in all my time in Sonoma. A lodge has a bartender's contracted, meaning the lodge hires the bartender, they pick out who that bartender is going to be. But the contract company pays all the taxes, they pay it all.
Yeah, it's like leasing. It's like leasing
What I've
employees.
done, I've been asked by that lodge to look over that contract. And I'm telling you, I've seen things that bother me. This thing was written by a lawyer, on a fact sheet. Because there's all kind of things saying in there that the lodge is still like, you come under the insurance policy, or you go this way, go that way. You really gotta look at that thing.
Well, you're always gonna have to maintain your workers' comp. We've lost lodges that haven't done workers' comp.
They agree to pay that, they agree to pay, and they state that they pay that, they state they have insurance on, they state also that all taxes, payroll and other is covered.
That only works so far though. If the leasing company forgets to pay the payroll taxes or goes out of business, owing the payroll taxes, it comes back to the lodge.
It's right back to the lodge, correct.
Yeah. So, if you're getting a leasing company, make sure it's a solid, reputable company. Especially during the pandemic, I saw about 4 of them in my town go out of business. So.
Next question.
Go ahead.
So if somebody is donating their tips back, can they get credit? Like if they're donating to Ariana, can they get credit under their name for that?
Yes, you just put their name on it and send it to them. Yeah.
Having worked with the IRS a number of times, I've got an issue with the idea of a bartender donating their tips back. The issue is this: the IRS can construe that they received it. If they received it, then they're automatically an employee to begin with. So it seems to me it would be better to just have all tips listed as a donation as opposed to coming from a volunteer.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you.
I was gonna say the same thing. It'd be easy to remedy that just by putting a tip jar on the bar that says Harry Anna Tip Fund. And then there's no ambiguity.
Good point. Thank you.
How much can an ER, give to these volunteers, like out of that fund you were talking about?
That would be up to your lodge. Every lodge would be allowed to make that determination.
Whatever you budget.
Grand Lodge will not come in and tell you, you have to do X amount.
So it would be like reduced price drinks, or?
It could be any way you wanna do it. You could, let's say your lodge wants you to do that, and they set up $100 a month for the entire year, so that's $1,200 over the year that you would be able to buy drinks for people. I've seen that done in a lot of lodges. I mean, our fund, my lodge never had enough money to do that, so I never got one.
Okay, I'm asking for a friend. We have a lodge that signed a lease with a fellow that worked at the kitchen. The payment, the way this friend is paying him is he gets 75% of the food sales. The lodge gets 25%.
Is this like a lease kitchen?
Yes. And that 75 and 25 is after the sales tax. But then the lodge is giving him the sales tax for him to pay, instead of the lodge paying the sales tax.
Dean? I don't like the way it sounds. But, you know, I'd really like to see the contract before I make a decision, and I'd probably run a contract by an attorney, because, the biggest mistake we can make is trying to play lawyer. I understand the law, but they know things that I will never know, so.
Trust me, an attorney would not approve.
If the attorney said that, then I'd have the attorney draft me a contract. We're actually trying to, through business practices, set up a network where we can have people that can review stuff, so.
Could you just give us your opinion? Your opinion on the guest book.
One of my favorite subjects, the guest book. The guest book. I get in more trouble for this. Me? Well, you know, my opinion of the guest book is, you're an elk, you're not a guest. So you shouldn't sign the book, period. Several years ago, I talked with an IRS agent that said if we treat our members like guests, they're gonna treat them like guests. And then we're gonna be having a lot of UBI. UBI is unrelated business activity. So at that point, I started telling the lodges, take the guest book off. Remove it from the front door. Because the IRS comes in, I've seen this. The IRS comes in, the first thing they're gonna grab is that guest book. And then they're gonna start nosing around the lodge. And then they're gonna start looking at credit card receipts to see if any of these guests charged anything. And once they start making that link, you're in a world of hurt, and it's gonna get worse from there.
So you have a visiting elk that comes in and charges at the bar. Right, and you can, because they're visiting elk. If the IRS looks at that credit card charge, they're not gonna be on your database. They're not gonna be in claims.
If you're using a POS system, in a POS system, there's a place to put their member number. Yeah, you can do that too.
So it's actually under business practices on the website now. Exactly what you said, it tells you how to do it.
What I've been recommending to lodges is take that guest book, put it behind the bar, and when your member comes up to buy his guest a drink, at that point, the guest's name should go in that book only at that point, and it stays behind the bar. Now, if you want to track visiting elks, let's have a visiting elk book, so they can sign something. Like I'm from Rotunda 2710, and I'm visiting North Carolina Lodge, and you know, so I'm visiting elk. I'll just put that right in there. Yeah, but I would never have the guest book by the front door. I'd remove it, keep it behind the bar.
One IRS audit that I worked on, that is correct. She came into the lodge, no one else was there. She wanted to see the property. First thing she did was look at the guest book at the front. Her question to me was, how do you handle purchases from guests? My answer was, only members purchase anything within our lodge. She said that's the correct answer.
Like I keep telling you, we're low-hanging fruit, we're easy. Yeah, a non-member can purchase food, but you've just opened up a new ball of wax. Now you got UBI. You have to track it differently. And how many lodges are doing a 990T? Thank you. If your lodge is not doing a 990T, and the 990T is for unrelated business activity, you need to start. Even if it's zero, do a zero return, please. That starts the clock running with the IRS. And once you hit 3 years, they can't come back and look at that one. And if they do come in and they find out you had UBI, at least you don't get a penalty for not filing. So it's a win-win. Auditing and accounting has been recommending 990Ts for all the lodges for the last several years. Zero return. The knock against the 990T, filing it, is you're going to have to file a Florida state tax return for your business also. So you pick up 2 tax returns for the price of one.
In this scan, the 990, do you want the T behind it?
Absolutely, we track those. We look for the 990Ts because we wanna know which lodges we're gonna have a problem somewhere down the road. How about some good news, guys? Anybody ready for some good news? Under the Employee Retention Act, you can, if your lodge has lost money this year and the year before, which most lodges have, you can actually get your accountant to pull together if you have paid employees and get the employment taxes back. The government's allowing that. It could add up to money for a lot of lodges. I mean, because I know some lodges have a lot of employees, so I would just ask your accountant, huh? I didn't say anything about it. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of money, if you have a lot of employees. If not, it could still be a few $100 back in your pocket, and it's better in your pocket than theirs. You have to show a loss.
Specifically, which government were you talking about? Florida or?
That's the United States government. Yeah. That's part of the big, Employment Retention Act.
Even if they got the payroll?
Yeah, even if they got the payroll stimulus. Yeah. Yeah.
Go back to on the free drinks and stuff like that for volunteers. So I just want clarification. If we were, Bob had mentioned it, and we were talking about it. If we had charged a volunteer $1 a drink, is that considered like a reduced rate? If you volunteer to cook, your drinks are $1. And then that clears us from them being an employee.
They paid something.
Okay, perfect.
Soft drinks and coffee.
Well, yeah. Tony brought up a good point. Soft drinks and coffee are exempt. You don't have to worry about it because a lot of people just give those away anyhow. So. Are they paying for a drink tip?
Yes.
If they're paying for a drink tip, yes.
You know, you have to watch that dollar a drink thing. I'll tell you why, because sometimes you have a whole bunch of volunteers on a serving line, for example, and, for your financial stability, you have to watch that dollar a drink, because sometimes you have a whole bunch of, you have like we do at our lodge, you have big serving lines and people come in and they just help serve. Well, what happens sometimes, and what used to happen in our lodge, is that somebody would come in and they would serve for 20 minutes, and they would say, okay, now I get dollar drinks for the rest of the night or something like that. And you have to watch that a little bit.
Thank you. Does everybody understand how to convert their QuickBooks to a CSV file? Okay, so we don't have to go with that. One thing that we're going back to the FRS, one thing we're noticing is if you're getting a rejection notice from the FRS, a lot of times what it is that you have not gone through and cleared out your zero accounts. The FRS will not accept zero accounts. If you have an account that hasn't done anything in it for the last month, when you move it to CSV file, you actually have to go through and scrub out all those zeroed out accounts. Yeah, it's a beautiful system, I tell you. You just remove it for that period. Nothing. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to leave blanks or gaps because then it'll break it up differently. So you want to just remove it and press everything back down.
So it removes the account, not just the zero.
Yeah. 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 It can't be blank. Blank and zeros, the system treats them the same.
Why not just make the account inactive?
You can do that too in the QuickBooks.
And that way, it won't keep compounding every month.
He said make the account inactive in QuickBooks. In QuickBooks, you can go pick an account and inactivate it, and then it doesn't show up when you do your CSV file. Yeah. You're gonna, it's a pain. I was hoping that maybe this would get a little better, a little faster. It is getting better, just not fast enough. We're making corrections, they're finally asking us questions on how to make it better, so. Yes, you do. If you're a DD, or a DD designate, and Bill Driver's gonna make sure you go all the way through. Your requirements are once a month to look at your lodge's balance sheet and financial reports and email them to the lodge so they can see what's on the FRS. When they get that, their requirement is they're supposed to look at it and make sure their QuickBooks is matching up to it so we don't have all these problems we've been having. You know, it is a problem. I don't know how many DDs are doing it, but
Yeah, I was just wondering if somebody that knows Excel pretty well, maybe generate a macro that would delete all those nulls and then share that with everybody. That would make our job a lot easier.
There's also templates on the Grand Lodge website now. So if you're having a problem, there are we have developed templates where you can go out there and copy it, just to make it a little easier.
Just a reminder too, I found when I did my visitations, your auditing and accounting committee in the lodges are not looking at the FSR or FRS reports. None of them. They have no idea what they look like. So make sure that they see those, because they really should be doing that and helping the lodges.
Most of your auditing and accounting committees don't even see the annual financial report that I generate. So who can be on your auditing committee? There's a good question. Can't be an officer. It's supposed to be 3 independent people. So that you have a person that is not part of the management of the lodge overlooking their shoulders. It's a check and balance. The lodges are set up to do all check and balances.
Dick, how's Dick today?
I have a response to the lady who said that she has to look at the FRS reports. And I'm on the audit committee for our lodge, and I asked for that form. They said, why? It's your QuickBook entries into FRS. If you pass the QuickBook information to the board of directors, it's the same thing.
The only reason I could see that the audit committee needs to look at it is to make sure it is the same. I mean, that'd be the only reason. Your lodge can get the ability to view the FRS. I don't recommend it because I'm in the same camp as Dick over here is. It's just regurgitated information. It would cost the lodge $360 to have the ability to view. I don't think it's worth the money. This system does nothing except for take your QuickBooks and bring it to me. That's it. That's all it does. If your QuickBooks is correct, this should be correct. Sometimes it's not, but it should be. But like I said, if it's close enough, don't worry about it. Because I will go ahead and complete it. Any other questions? Well, I told it at the beginning, we're requesting, I talked to the DDs yesterday, we're requesting that the DDs share their login with the auditors. That way the auditors will now have the ability to view the FRS when they're in your lodge and help you correct the problems sooner. Our goal in Florida is to be 100% compliant, probably a little later this year, early next year. Right now, Area 3, which is 230 lodges, for 2019, 2020, we're about 60% done with our annual audit reviews, which is horrible. They should be done and over with. And for 2021, we are about 20%. So I have about 200 lodges that haven't done anything. Madam President, do you have anything for this illustrious crowd?
Well, I will say, we talk about unrelated business income, and everybody thinks
sales or bar sales to non-members. I don't have the exact list, but look up what unrelated business income is, because I fought at our lodge, because I was on the audit committee before I got a little busier on the state, and I said, the business card ads, and that's taken off because things change, if you have, how many have newsletters? And how many have business card ads in their newsletters? That's unrelated business income. Yeah, so don't assume it's just sales of food and beverage to non-members. There's other items that might get involved with that. And like I said, I'm not gonna get out there but we finally started doing a 990T because we have like, I don't know, $3,000 a year in business card sales to our, and they're sold to members. They said, well, I'm a member. I put, no, it doesn't matter if it's unrelated to your business of being an Elks Lodge. So just want to share, so make sure you review that, because we finally got going and doing our 990T thing because of that. There's a list. There's a list of items that may fall under, you know, your different areas. I don't know. I mean, that's something the Business Practices Committee might be able to answer.
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
We have a whole section on UBI.
There's a whole section on UBI. On the Business Practice website, we have a whole section on unrelated business income.
Thank you, Carl, for a great presentation.
Everybody, thank you. I am in the book. My number's in the book. My email's in the book. If you're having a problem, reach out to me. Show a little patience, because I am inundated this year. But I will get back to you, I promise. I'm here to help you guys any way I can, get this mess cleaned up, and get everybody happy and have a good time again. Thank you all.